And welcome back to my channel. I am trying to get some review videos up for you because I've been reading some great books. Usually I have a slew of cozy mystery books, especially if I am binging a series. But of late, I've had some mystery thrillers and some psychological thrillers. And that's pretty much back and forth all I've been reading. So this particular video is for book number 2 in the Sanchez Heron series by Jeffery Deaver and Isabella Maldonado. The book that the video is about is The Grave Artist, but I want to start by talking to you about book number 1 in the series, which is Fatal Intrusion. And really, I think reading this series in order, even though there's just 2 books, definitely do that. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to run over to Amazon. If I'm not mistaken, these might be on Kindle Unlimited. Yes, they are both on Kindle Unlimited in audio. Okay? Did you hear me? In audio. So please go to Amazon if you have Amazon Unlimited and grab these 2 books because you won't be disappointed. Now, last night I was in a live stream and somebody mentioned that she was reading one of the Jeffery Deaver books for the Cote de Shaw series. She's on book number 3. I said, oh, that's a coincidence. I just finished The Grave Artist by him that he co-authored with Isabella Maldonado. Well, she said, yeah, he just did a session and did some book signing at the bookstore in my town called the Poison Pen Bookstore. There's an interview link there. And I said, oh, that's pretty cool. And she says, yes, the Poison Pen Bookstore has a YouTube channel. And I am definitely going to link that in the body of the description below. Well, I watched the interview, or the talk, I should say, between Jeffery Deaver and Isabella Maldonado to find out more about their writing, their co-authoring, their styles, what one person's strength is versus another person's strength. Just some really, really good insights to that. And I'm telling you, if you like crime thriller, really good insights into that phase of how 2 authors with very successful careers over here and over here, independent of each other, can create such hard-hitting, excellent series. And what I loved about that video is they talked about the process of writing a thriller. How many arcs you may have in a story, like one storyline that covers this, another storyline that covers that, and maybe even a 3rd storyline. But the trick is you have to have a resolution to those storylines. And then what a lot of authors are doing, especially authors that continue in series, and if you saw my spreadsheets, I am a series fanatic. I have my series spreadsheet must have 10 pages, and on each page has hundreds of books. I just love series. So if an author is going to write a series and they imagine the following book in the series, they may leave one storyline almost like a cliffhanger. Not a true cliffhanger where you get to the end of the book and you're like, well, that was a waste of time. No, nothing like that, but enough that it will make you want to come back to the next book. Another thing I loved what they said in that interview is they want you to be able to say, I read this book in one sitting, or I stayed up all night reading this book, because that means that they succeeded in making you interested in the book. And the last thing I'm going to mention about that interview is the questions that they imagine as they're devising an outline for that book. And like, what's going to happen, what did happen, what's going to happen, who's going to be involved, how are they going to fix it, and things of that nature. And any of us that read any type of mystery thrillers, crime thrillers, psychological thrillers, we know that that's a formula. So all of these amazingly successful authors have been using this formula for years. And Jeffery Deaver referred back to one of my favorite authors of all time, Agatha Christie, how he read all of her books, Hercule Poirot books, her Miss Marple books, her independent books. And it was like a feeding session for him because it fed him well, and it played well into his career decades later. And then, of course, he mentioned some popular authors like Stephen King and oh goodness, there's a Lee Goldstein, maybe. I don't think that name is right, but he meant Lee Goldberg. So by looking at how these authors write, it kind of gives you an idea of what to expect when you're reading this book or these books. So I got the first book, Fatal Intrusion, because I started watching the television series Tracker. Tracker has had 2 seasons. The 3rd season will be coming up in a few weeks. And at the end of the book, it says story by or created by, and it has Jeffery Deaver's name. Well, anybody that's a reader of mysteries or thrillers, crime thrillers, etc., knows that name, Jeffery Deaver. So when Fatal Intrusion came on the NetGalley site, I automatically wanted to get it. The second reason I wanted to read Fatal Intrusion is because of the second name, the co-writing name, Isabella Maldonado. Well, I had read one of her series. Now, I believe she has 2 trilogies and a third one that was meant to be a trilogy that she said she's writing the 4th book for, which will be available next year. So yes, I'm going to binge those first 3 books. I was going to get them on, I was going to check Amazon Unlimited, Kindle Unlimited. I was even going to check Libby or Hoopla, but I wanted to tell you something, and I am going to bring up Isabella Maldonado's name for one moment to tell you the series. I think it's either her Nina Guerrera series or her Veranda Cruz series. I'm not sure which one, but I will double check that, like when the time is right for me to have the time to binge it, because I'm going to binge both of these. But one of those series she's going to revitalize. So she said that basically she has 5 books coming out next year. Revitalization of that series, which I believe is the Veranda Cruz series. A new book with Jeffery Deaver in the Sanchez and Heron series, which is what this video is about, in the revitalization of those other 3 books. So she's got 5 books that we'll see next year. So I would just wait till next year. They'll probably come on NetGalley because they're going to be with Thomas and Mercer, the same publisher that has published these books. So let's get back into talking about the books. Fatal Intrusion, like I said, is book number 1. It came out last year in 2024, and we have 2 people who are thrown together in a work situation where they're complete opposites. You have Carmen Sanchez, who was an FBI agent, then a Homeland Security agent, who beyond anything and above and beyond anything, sticking close to the letter of the law was critical to her. In any cases that she would take on, she was, a diehard stickler. But then we have Professor Jake Heron. He's a private security expert who doesn't mind bending the rules and stepping outside of the box. But then I learned something new, a new word, which I want to Google it right now. Intrusionist. And I'm doing this as I'm talking to you, okay? Waiting for I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, this was one of the first times, well, for me, this was the first time that I had read the word intrusionist in a book. And that's why it's important for me to talk to you about fatal intrusion. I didn't want to think I was repeating the word, but it was necessary. So AI says An intrusionist is a person who intrudes or is apt to intrude, meaning they enter a place or a situation without invitation or permission, or they disturb others with unwanted or unwelcome actions. This has two connotations, but I only picked up on the first connotation when I read Fatal Intrusion. I picked up on our character, Jake Heron, or Jake, his name is Dr. Jacoby Heron. So I picked up on Jake Heron's job as an intrusionist, to where he used his skills to hack into any system anywhere, in government, privacy, private homes, whatever. His security business allowed him to really dig deep into any situation, but to use it for good. Again, including bending the rules. But the other part that I didn't pick up on is how we as consumers are intruded on by technology, by AI, and by even more. And I'm not trying to get into any kind of controversial debate, but I know that what I'm about to say, you'll 100% relate to. Let's say, okay, I talked to one of my doctors about seasonal depression on Tuesday, and she recommended that I change all of my lights to special ultraviolet light that is good for seasonal depression, but not just to use it during those months where it hits me hard, but to use it year round. So now that I looked up the light bulbs on Amazon, guess what? You go to your feeds, and now everybody and their mother's brother is offering me little information or trying to sell me a light bulb. Pants, Women Within, one of my favorite shops. Okay, I bought some pants from them, and now everybody and their mother's brother says, look, I have these pants for this price. I have these pants for this price. That's what the aspect of intrusionism is or was that I didn't pick up on. So I really appreciated watching that video by Deaver and Maldonado, because I learned a little bit more about that first book in the series. We have Carmen Sanchez, like I said, Homeland Security, former FBI. Well, her sister was attacked, and she wants to, for the first time in her career, go off the books to find out who attacked her sister. So she had to get help from Jake Heron, as I mentioned, that private security expert, and they have a past that wasn't good, but now they have to work together to try to figure out what happened to her sister. And the thing that I love about Fatal Intrusion, and the thing that I loved about A Grave Artist, is the time arc. It's a very limited story time. So Fatal Intrusion takes place over 72 hours, just 3 days. So when you're reading this book, something else that Heron and Maldonado both agreed on in the interview is, when you get to the end of chapter 4, you've got to flip the next page to chapter 5. You get to the end of chapter 5, you got to flip the next page to chapter 6. You don't want to put the book down. That's what happens. But when you have a book that's in a compressed, an hour, 24 hours, or 72 hours in this case, or even a week, 168 hours, I think the level of intensity and tension increases because it's a short time factor. So I loved that book. I only gave it 4 stars, but I loved it. Then I read this week The Grave Artist. Again, I gave it 4 stars, but there's always a reason, but that's neither here nor there. And I say that's neither here nor there, because 4 stars is still an excellent rating. In fact, the average rating is 4.36. There's only 72 reviews on Goodreads for this right now, but it just came out September 9th, and today is the 11th. And for those of you who lost anybody in the 911 attacks, you have my ultimate compassion and concern and condolences. But Today's the 11th, so the book's only been out a couple of days. And like I said, get it on Kindle Unlimited. Well, in this book, we have a serial killer. Oh my goodness. Do you read thrillers? Do you read mystery thrillers? Do you read psychological thrillers? Then you have read about serial killers. Do you watch the news? You have heard about serial killers. Well, this serial killer, his name is Damon Garr, and he has a different motive. So he waits till a couple gets married. Immediately, on that wedding day, maybe while they're on the reception or when they step away to go to the bathroom or whatever, he kills one of the mates. And then what he revels in is the grief process of the surviving mate. That's the twist. Murdering so that you can watch someone else suffer. Okay? Then you also have another arc, a story arc, of, remember I said in the first book, Fatal Intrusion, Carmen Sanchez's sister was attacked. Her name is Selena, by the way. I don't think I've said that thus far. In that book, in the second book here, right at the end of book 1, the method that they thought cost their father his life wasn't the case. And I don't want to spoil it, so I'm kind of being very vague for a minute, intentionally. And now Selena is begging for Carmen to look into what happened to their father. Again, I'm being general. So that's another story arc. And there's yet a third, but we'll just talk about those. We're just talking about those two for a moment. And so what's interesting about the story is, again, short time span. So the tension is great. 2 is each chapter leaves you with a very wet appetite to go into the next chapter. 3, Damon Garr is not alone in what he's doing. And there's a twist there that just makes you really say, whoa, I can't believe I just read that. Whoa, I can't believe that just happened. So those are all my thoughts. Great book. This video review is nothing like my written review because of seeing the interview with Jeffery Deaver and Isabella Maldonado on the YouTube review. And I gave it 4 stars. I want to just read the last paragraph of my written review on my blog. The Grave Artist is the second installment in the Sanchez and Heron series, following Fatal Intrusion. While it might not be necessary to read the books in order, I highly recommend it. Jake's career is unlike anything I've encountered before, and it's delightful to see him reuniting with Carmen. Needless to say, there's a hint of romantic tension that could potentially alter their relationship in the next book of the series. And even in the interview, they said that the next story is fleshed out and they're in the process of writing it. So I can't wait to see what happens. So that's it. I was asked to do this review. I know it ran long, but it was important for me to give you as much information as I can about what I like to read in the book, what these authors were thinking when they wrote the book, how they go about writing the book, and how we might feel after reading the book. And then the last thing I'll mention again is Kindle Unlimited as audiobooks. Go grab them. Let me know, please, in the comment section if you read the first book, Fatal Intrusion, and now if you're interested in reading The Grave Artist. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you with my next video. Bye-bye.